Hello friends, welcome back. Today's picture panel is going to be the King Edward Hotel. So I can't get to where this photo was actually taken. At the time, it was obviously the tallest building around, so I think this is probably taken from on top of some other sort of shorter building across the street, but it's all towers around it now, so it's just an impossible location to get to. So the hotel today, and even in this photo, has two distinct parts. There's this shorter sort of original hotel, and then there's this 18-story tall box, which is really what made it an impressive hotel. The top story has a giant crystal ballroom, which was the most elegant place to host a party in Toronto at the time. The whole building was designed by some American architect and our friend E.J. Lennox, and it really didn't stand the test of time the way the Royal York did. The hotel, without the tower, was opened in 1903 and was named after Honest Ed, the King of Canada at the time. A year after it opened, the Great Fire of Toronto burnt down almost all of downtown Toronto. It was actually Toronto's second Great Fire. After the first one, they had outlawed sort of using wood on the outside of your building to prevent fires from spreading. But most buildings at that time were still brick exteriors with timber frames on the inside. Think Distillery District, except that's what all of Toronto looked like up until April of 1904. In total, about 100 buildings collapsed after the timber frames had been burnt out of them and left most of Toronto just as a heap of rubble. This made a lot of people pretty wary about staying inside taller buildings built in this area. Even though almost all of downtown burned again, the fire regulations at the time meant the buildings could stay up long enough that everybody managed to escape. So even though this was a huge fire that burned for 9 hours and collapsed 100 buildings, it was a -4-degree night with 50-kilometer-an-hour winds and flurries and snow, making everything more confusing. There was actually nobody who was killed during the actual fire. Actually, only one person died as a result of all of this, and it was a man who, after the fire had ended, was trying to clear up some rubble using TNT carelessly. Anyway, people's general fear of fire and big buildings really colored most of the advertisements that this hotel had at that time. Absolutely fireproof, indestructible by fire, a fireproof hotel, special for the ladies. I guess nothing quite impresses the ladies like a night in a hotel without even the slightest bit of emulsion. Any building that advertises itself as fireproof as this one does almost certainly is actually just saying it's mostly made out of asbestos. I know Canada was the world's largest producer of it around the time this building was built, but I can't find anything actually indicating that that's what was used in this building. They usually just reference sturdy concrete or stonework or things like that. I'm pretty sure it's asbestos, though. So after about 30 years of advertising how absolutely fireproof the hotel was, it failed its fire inspection, which means that the top floors and the 5th through 8th floors have pretty much been vacant since the 1950s. Quite recently, they retrofitted some fire suppression systems and put on some external fire escape routes, which means that they could reopen some of the bottom floor as residencies. And the ballroom is currently undergoing a multi-million-dollar restoration effort to bring it up to this spectacular state for all of the large gatherings that are going to be happening soon. Anyway, that's the story of the King Eddy. It's probably just going to continue to be a hotel and host events. I hope they continue to restore it, and that's something that's been going on since the 80s, though. It's old enough now, it's got that sort of nostalgia factor. I don't think it'll ever make a list of top 12 must-see buildings, though, anytime soon. It's pretty clear to see why in the 1920s it would have, though. This would have been a very tall, impressive structure, and the ballroom would have been pretty spectacular, so I understand why it's here. Anyway, have a beautiful day. I don't think this is going to work at all.